Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to go through some dumb predictions for the next major update. There has been a ton of change in War Thunder over the last little bit, but you know what doesn't change? Of course, the insanity. So let's get into some of the suggestions for the dumb predictions of this update. So the first one is pretty simple, and also outrageous. Britain actually gets a competitive top-tier jet, something that they've had once in their history, but this time it will come in. There'll be something absolutely crazy, whether it's something like a Typhoon, the good old FGR-4 maybe, with the good old ASRAMs. Maybe Britain will finally get something that will be useful, instead of the second-tier stuff that they just give them all the time. Here's hoping. Strategic bombers will also be added to the game, so we'll get stuff like the B-52, the Tu-95. There's enough weaponry now to actually add them in, making them either boom or bust vehicles, making them absolutely crazy to be able to do tons of damage or absolutely nothing. Since they've obviously realized that they don't care about CAS when it comes to ground forces or naval forces, they're going to throw these things in so they can kind of just do whatever they want and then just destroy whole battlefields, because I think overall that makes the most sense. The Caproni CA-60 will be coming in, but not as a standard plane. The Caproni CA-60, if you don't know what it is a 9-winged plane, which is just nuts. It was supposed to be a passenger plane, but we're not going to do that. The only way you could do that in War Thunder is if you literally had people actually fall out of it attached to grenades, which usually isn't looked too good upon. So my general idea of how to approach this with the Caproni is just strap a nuke to it, and that is going to be Italy's nuke launcher. So instead of having to use other people's technology, you can just use the CA-60. I think for me, that makes the most sense. The Iranian tech tree will also grace us into the game, because there is a ton of really cool Iranian vehicles they can add from a bunch of different nations, and they also have some really unique stuff which could bring in some new playstyles. If you don't know, the Iranians developed a quad bike. Now, a quad bike is one of these really interesting pieces of technology, which is pretty new. You know, it's a four-wheeled kind of little, I suppose, car thing, which is open-topped, so it won't have a ton of armor, but a ton of mobility. And on these really special pieces of technology, they actually added crazy stuff like ATGM carriers. They even added some, machine guns for AA. It's just crazy that these vehicles have so much power behind them. And coming to the game soon will be a new scout vehicle in the form of these quad bikes as exclusive early premiums in order to sell the tech tree. There'll also be some new arcade kill streaks. You're going to have naval guns in, so basically a barrage from stuff like the Scharnhorst or even stuff like the Hood. You could just bring it in on an area of the map and just nuke anybody that's there. And then also Zeppelins. If you don't know Zeppelins, they're pretty cool. Mainly used in the First World War, but also used in others. The Zeppelins actually bombed London, weirdly enough, in the First World War. But yeah, that'll come in. You can bring it in the lower tiers of arcade, and then you can drop grenades from them, trying to go after open-topped vehicles and also other ones with slightly less armor on the top. They're also going to bring in the V1 and V2 rockets around rank 3 and rank 4 to give you the nuke experience without actually getting a nuke, so you don't end the game. And that means that you can have a pretty cool advantage, but also at the same time, you don't, completely take over the competition. The XF-85 Goblin is going to be coming in, and this is to kind of test parasite fighters. Parasite fighters, if you don't know, are fighters which are designed to attach to larger planes, and then when those larger planes get attacked, the parasite fighters get launched, and then they actually go and kind of defend the planes. This was something that the Americans pioneered and also a few other nations, but the most iconic one is the XF-85 Goblin, and there's actually a working model of it, which is in the game. I actually looked at it a few years ago, showing that this has been in development for ages, and hopefully in the future we could see some more. All heavy tanks will move down in BR by 0.3 because it actually now has been medically and statistically and scientifically proven that every heavy tank player in this game is clinically brain dead. Dam buster bombs will also be added for some extra naval shenanigans, so you can skip the bombs on the water. If you didn't know, you can already do that, by the way, in War Thunder, but these will just give some extra revolutions just to have a bit of fun with, so you can donk on things such as big old battleships or battlecruisers if you can get close enough. They're also going to add mini-subs to the game, basically, you know, just little 1 or 2 man machines that you'll be able to use in naval as a kill streak. So you basically click it and then you just go forward with your little boat, kind of like how you would do the scout plane, and then as you get close to the enemy you can line it up and fire and then run away again. And they're not going to be visible on the map, so it's going to give you kind of the submarine experience before they add submarines in. So you're just going to randomly get hit by torpedoes if, you know, the thing is submerged, and just to kind of get people used to how the kind of meta of War Thunder Naval is going to work in the future. Then they're gonna add in the Kitakami, and if you don't know what the Kitakami is, it's a Tenryu class of cruiser for the Japanese, but this one's just odd because it's actually going to show kind of a new mechanic when it comes to War Thunder. The Glorious is also going to get this mechanic where, based on modifications, you can completely change what happens with the vehicle. The Kitakami was one of those which actually went through several different integrations, so you have like the standard cruiser variant, which is very similar to the Sendai that we have in the game, and then it was actually changed into a torpedo cruiser. So the main thrust of it was the torpedoes. It basically had 6, well, if you want to have a look at its initial setup, it had 7 140mm guns, 2 80mm as well, and 8 torpedo tubes. Then, when it came to being a torpedo cruiser, it had 4 140mm guns, so still pretty good, 6 triple or 6 25mm AA guns, and then it had 40, that's right, 40 torpedo tubes in sets of 4. So this thing can fire 40 torpedoes, which is pretty cool. And then the final iteration, which was kind of like an AA cruiser, you had 2 127mm AA guns and 67 25mm AA guns. So this thing had a ton of different modifications and variants. What they're going to do, as I said, is they're going to stick it in the game, and then you can just kind of pick which one that you want. Be damned. The Kitakami also had a chance of launching manned torpedoes, which unfortunately would probably end in suicide, but in War Thunder, your crew will just be knocked out, so it's all good. So we'll probably get those too. They're also going to add in fixed SAM sites as researchable and also playable vehicles, because it is a little bit too hard for SBAA players to understand that sometimes it's a better idea to leave the spawn so you don't get hammered by CAS. So instead, we're just going to take away that option. So instead, you just literally sit there and shoot things from a singular point. This means that there's hardly any headaches. You don't have to worry about moving. You just have to worry about looking at your radar, which it takes up about 1/10 of the screen. Also, with the popularity of drones being even more nowadays, everybody's loving drones, especially the high-tier ones, the 80 gem ones. What we decided to do is add suicide drones, because that, as you know, when we added drones, one of the big selling points was that they're part of the modern battlefield nowadays, and they should be in. So now, we're just going to add some more, which are also part of the modern battlefield, so people can get that real feeling of what happens. The last point is we are giving every player playing top tier Japan a mental health check to make sure that they are not a masochist. Because obviously, when it comes to Japan, it does tend towards certain areas, and if you look at certain statistics, especially when it comes to Japan, it is a little bit odd. So we're just going to make sure that everybody's okay, and that everybody is fine, not having a high tier AA, not really having a great IFE, not really having a great light tank, and just sitting on a vehicle which is incredibly ahistorical. So yeah, hopefully you guys are okay over there. Don't worry, the clipboards are coming soon, and we only have a limited supply of straitjackets, so you won't all get caught. Some of you might just get medicine balls and also cushioned rooms, which is fantastic. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orangetail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.